if you ever found yourself going, oh my God, how can I accept that? Like, what is going on? And you find yourself spinning and spiraling. Well, then we're going to have to adopt some radical acceptance. And you guys know that is my most favorite thing. It's what my entire practice is built on. And I think it warranted another podcast on that this week. So that's what we're going to talk about to help decrease your level of suffering that you are actually in control of. Check it out. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori, and I'm so excited you're here. It's like one of my favorite topics ever because it's my entire practice. But first, I want to thank all of the newest Patreon subscribers who keep coming back every week. And this week, I'm going to give you some direction and tips on how you can start implementing this radical acceptance with some tools and tricks and tips and all of those things. So if that's your jam and you want more information on it, you can visit over on patreon.com/the Positivity Experience, or you can just click wherever you're getting this podcast right now. There should be a clickable link in there and it can take you right there. And you'll get a worksheet so you can start help guiding yourself. But before we get there, we got to know why we would go there. So we're going to talk about radical acceptance, man. It is my favorite thing. It has saved my entire life, quite literally. It is a huge part of my practice. It's dialectical behavioral therapy. Is now what it's called. But even before it was called that way, I'm telling you, it's been around for years. It's just, as you know, we have the founders who established this as dialectical behavior therapy is, it's spectacular because it gives more clarity as to what it is. And I feel like, you know what, that's what we always need, because we need a whole village of people. We don't need just one person. We need a village. You need a whole team of healers, baby, all of us. So I want to give you the whole concept of what radical acceptance is. And before I even go there, right, I don't want you to think this podcast, that the next podcast, 75 books that you hear from dialectical behavioral therapist specialists is going to give you a magic solution. We will give you the tools. You have got to get to the surrender piece of it, letting down your ego, and really doing that self-work. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have. Doesn't matter how many things you listen to and read. If you're not implementing it and allowing yourself to be uncomfortable, you will not get on the other side of that. Doesn't matter who or what or when or how many sessions, doesn't matter. If you're not willing to do the work, well, it's not willing, but if you're not willing to push yourself out of the comfort zone, then it's going to be really hard for you to do radical acceptance. It's going to keep it real with you. So you have to be prepared to do the difficult work. You're going to have to be prepared to feel your feelings, but we're going to talk about that. So I want to give you basically the entire concept of radical acceptance, right? It's the practice of fully and completely, but listen to what I said, fully and completely accepting reality as it is in the present moment today. Radical acceptance is right now, today, right here in this present moment. Now, you do not judge it, right? You don't judge your emotions. You don't judge you don't judge it. You just acknowledge it. You see it, right? Because you can't have judgment. It's the resistance and the denial that holds you up. Your resistance, think of resistance as ego. Yes, it could come from trauma. Yes, it could come out of protection for self-preservation, still goes into ego too. And denial. You can deny things all day long. You could deny. And unless you're honest with yourself, radical acceptance isn't going to work for you, because you got to be honest that, hey, things are just as they are. Right? It also involves acknowledging and embracing the facts and circumstances of a situation, even if they're painful and undesirable. Okay? So even if they're painful and undesirable, there is an acceptance of knowing this is what it is. My favorite saying, I have it on my refrigerator. I have it everywhere. It is what it is. Right? So remember, actions and words are just actions and words. We as humans attach that emotion to it. We say, oh, we didn't like those words. Those words were offensive. Those words were, or that behavior was problematic for me. Okay, valid. I'm validating you, but it doesn't mean that it's the facts, because thoughts and feelings aren't facts. So you have to remember that people's actions are their actions. We as humans, you as a human, attach an emotion or a reaction to it based on anything from trauma, anything. It doesn't matter why. I'm just telling you so you can understand the whole concept of radical acceptance. Okay. It's also about letting go of the need. Okay. That can go into attachment. the need for things to be different. And here's the kicker. Here is the piece de resistance, top of the chain of the rest of the sentence. Choosing to stop struggling against what is. Choosing to stop struggling with what is. It's a choice. It is absolutely a choice. I didn't say it's easy. I didn't say it isn't harder for some people. No, those words didn't come out of my head. But I promise you, and I've been on the other side of this. When I finished my book, which I took off in the summer because I had a bunch of clients and stuff had to be done. So I'm getting back into it now that we're in September. But here's the thing. Until I chose to accept things as they are. Now this, in your mind, I feel like when your ego kicks in and you go, well, if I accept it, then I'm just letting it happen. Okay, so holding on resistance to this is doing what for you? Because it's not giving you the outcome. You're not permissing anything. You are. You're permissing yourself to free yourself from the chains that bind you through these people. So yeah, you are doing something. You are allowing something. You're allowing your freedom. Now, these people and situations do not have to remain in your life. I didn't say you just have to surrender to them and be like, well, do whatever you want. No, that's where boundaries come in at. Radical acceptance and boundaries, my two biggest specialties, well, in self-love, right? So, it's a concept of dialectical behavioral therapy that encourages you to fully accept, especially when facing challenging or distressing situations. There are so many things in this world that are out of your control. This is a big piece of ego integrity, which I've really been working on. And ego integrity is a fear of death, right? So, ego integrity helps a fear of death. Thanatophobia is the fear of death. So if you have that, no matter what you do, how many times you want it to be different, you don't have to obsess on it, because obsessing on it, I promise you, I've been there, done that, bought the shirt, it will spiral you out of control. Because when you realize you're really out of control of it, it can become problematic. So that's why you don't Google things. Please stay off Google. Unless you're looking for a recipe or something, just stay off Google, okay? Like, don't start researching stuff. It'll send you down rabbit holes that you do not need to belong, that you do not need to be in, okay? And so ego integrity is accepting that fact. And so it's staying in the present space and mindfulness, which is honestly my Buddhist practice has been very, very helpful with that. But so before I talk to you about some areas of it, I want to give you kind of the foundation of what this is. And then I'm going to tell you how you would implement this kind of in your real life. And then over on Patreon, I'll give you even more tips with the worksheet that you can start embracing your own acceptance. But so one is going to be acceptance of reality. Okay, I do not care if you do not like that it is a rainy day. You could say, I don't like the rain. The rain does not care. It doesn't matter. You could hate it. You can despise it. The rain is the rain. Okay, now I'm using that as just a kind of a lighthearted thing, but it's very true. This in radical acceptance emphasizes the acknowledgement of this. To acknowledge and accept that the current situation, even if it is painful and undesirable, it's recognizing. So it's encouraging you for emotional maturity, emotional intelligence, right? And it's recognizing that some things in life, most of those things, are largely out of your control and they cannot be changed. Largely out of your control. Probably 98% of your life is out of your control. The only thing that's in control for you is your mindset. And no matter what you're struggling with, you can switch your mindset. I didn't say it's going to be easy. It's going to be more challenging for people who are in the negativity sort of world. It's going to take some effort. I'm not going to lie to you. Is it easy? No. Do you deserve it? Yes. But if you're going to be resistant and you're going to go, but I wish it'd be different. This is why you find people staying in bad relationships, because, and I'm not talking about abusive. I said bad relationships that are just like, they're just toxic, because you go, well, you know what? It looked okay. Like last weekend we went out and it was fine. Like, oh my God, like that's what I remembered. You're holding on, you're kind of breadcrumbing yourself in some way unintentionally, right? Where you're kind of like, oh, well, I know how that felt, but you got to accept that. Is it going to be how you want it to be? Probably never. It may never be. And whether you like it or whether you hate it or whether you resist it, it still is the facts. Facts carry zero emotion, right? So if you go, I feel, okay, valid to you, but it's not a fact, right? If I say to you, it's September 1st, then it's September 1st. I mean, unless you're in September 2nd territory. But the point is, doesn't matter. It is the facts. Facts carry zero emotion. So a radical acceptance will help you in that area. It's going to help you understand and accept reality as it is, but you are going to have to choose to do so. I'm always going to come back to the choose because it is a choice in which you make. Okay. It also helps with non-judgmental stances. This is very important because your judgment of others is already problematic. Should never be sitting in judgment of others. You can analyze the situation and say, does this serve my growth? Does this serve my best and highest good in my growth direction? No, it does not. Then it is not for me. But not when it comes to other people. But it's also your self-judgment that creates an enormous problem. Okay? Because you have to also understand that you can say you hate it, you can say you don't like it, but it is what it is. This is about detachment. This is another thing, DBT helped with this, but also the Buddhist practice. I live in a detached life. I have a podcast on it. I would encourage you to listen to it. This does not mean I don't love things and I love my family and that is not what that means. That means I don't need that for my personal happiness. I don't need that. I'm not attached to that. And when you start saying, I need it to be different, but it's not different, and then you're trying to accept it, but then you're still resisting the fact that you need it to be different, it's not going to be. It is not going to be. I don't care. Don't care. Nope. Don't care. Not going to happen. So what it does is, you got to stop saying things are good or they are bad. They are what they are. Is the situation serving you? No. Okay. Is this situation bringing you joy? No. Okay. You can say that in that case, that would be equivalent to like your bad situation. But no, you got to stop labeling things black and white, good and bad, right? Because, and most importantly, you got to avoid self-criticism. Your self-criticism is like, and self-blame and, oh my God, I did this. Okay, you did it. It's done, bro. It's finished. So you can sit there and wallow in self-pity. Do that all you want. It's going to serve no purpose. No one is going to coddle you. And you're never going to grow from it. So you can apologize if needed, and then you change your behavior, you see what you did, and you own it, and you take accountability. That's the big one. Take accountability, choose to take the accountability, be honest with yourself, and understand that everybody's not on your time. So just because you say, okay, I am sorry, or okay, I went through this, okay. But that doesn't mean that person is got to just be like, okay, cool, let's do this now. Like everybody is on their own. That goes back to number one, accept reality, that every human being has their own right to do things their own way. They absolutely do. Okay. Now, DBT highly helps emotional regulation. Oh my God. Emotional regulation is like the thing, right? And it's really tied to emotional regulation. It really is. Radical acceptance is pretty much emotional regulation. In like it's a sister, right? Because when you start to learn to accept things as they are, now you can look and say, is there something I can literally do to change this? Is there something I can literally do to change this? Cool. Then maybe you make those steps. Is there something I can do to change it? No. Then that's it. Like you're going to have to accept it. You're allowed to go through your feelings. You process what your emotions are, which we're going to talk on the Patreon about it. And so these are all the important factors of it. Right? Because you can reduce the amount of personal emotional suffering when you are letting go of denial and resistance. That is a thorn in your side. And also avoiding those emotions are never going to serve your best and highest good. I don't like how I feel. I think that's so stupid. Okay, well, we've done two things that are completely not good for your mental health or growth or energy. You just said that your emotions are stupid, but then you get mad because you're like, well, people don't validate my emotions. You literally did not validate your emotion. You don't live in it. You look at it, you use your emotion as a guide, as a GPS guide that says, okay, well, what areas do I still need to work in? Is there something I need to accept? You got to be able to give yourself that time. Okay. So what that will do is when you start accepting things as they are, you use your 5 journals. Don't forget, I have my YouTube on the 5 journal series. And you're able to put it down and you're not doing that emotional response where now you have to go into manipulation. Remember we talked about that last week? Like now you have to go into manipulation because you're trying to avoid a feeling, and then you're trying to avoid what people say and their actions because now you'd rather lie or you'd rather maneuver things and manipulate situations and not accept them that, hey, I screwed up, or hey, I did something, or hey, they don't want to do something, period. You can have your feelings about it, But there's no need to start the manipulation piece of that. And DBT will, that too, but radical acceptance will prevent that. Okay. You have to also understand that it also gives you an increase in resilience. I'm like thinking Star Wars, resistance, the resilience. Okay. So it's going to really help your resilience, because what it does is it promotes a more flexible and adaptive approach, right? Because it's going to make you adapt. It's going to not make you. It's going to allow you the tools to adapt when things don't go as planned, when things change up, when things become different. What it does is the more that you start to accept, the more that you become flexible, the more that you don't dislike change, the more that you accept change, right? And so, I think too, instead of fighting against that reality, I don't like it the way it is. Don't care. Straight up and down, do not care that you don't like it. It is what it is. You have got to remind yourself that it is what it is. You are allowed your feelings, but to live and wallow goes into victim state. And we can't do that, right? And then another thing about that is it gives you a place to start working on solutions and using constructive tools to cope, going for walks, doing your journaling, doing your breathing, doing all journaling, like all of those things. It's going to give you that space, removing yourself from situations that no longer serve you. Like it's going to do so much for you. And guess who's in control of this? You are. You got to stop with denial, stop with resistance. Is it going to be uncomfortable? Yes. Are you going to have to include self-discipline? Yes. Do you need anybody's cheerleading along the way? No. Do you and are you the only person who can make you happy and peaceful? Yes. Accept that. Because once we have attachment, that's going to become a problem. Because attachment's like, I need. Now we're living in attachment, which is a past podcast. Go listen to it. Okay. So this prevents that. It also the radical acceptance helps so much reduce your inner conflict, right? Because what happens is, you're fighting against what is. Yeah, but like my childhood, damn it, like my childhood was horrendous. Yes, I understand. Lived there, done that, bought the shirt, don't recommend the trip. I understand. But what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? Well, my life could have been different. It could have. Doesn't mean it would have been better. Now you start glorifying and playing things out in your head. You're playing out storylines that aren't real because they'll never be real because you can't go back in time. You got to stop with the rumination. Now you can look and say, did I learn something from it? Is there something I can take from it? Something positive I learned? Absolutely. Oh my God, that's great. That's so productive. But not to go back and be like, oh, but if I would have done this and I wouldn't have made this mistake. You did. You made the mistake. Yep, you did it. Yep, you said it. You said what you said and you did what you did. It is what it is, whether you like it or not. You torturing yourself by personal conflict and the way you're thinking, the way you're feeling, that is not going to change anything that has been done. Nothing. So this is why you learn and you keep it moving. Okay? Like seriously. And the only way to truly grow, well, there's a couple ways: mindfulness, accountability, acceptance of self. But radical acceptance is one for your personal growth. Because it's not about resignation. And I feel like so many things like I'm just resigned to being what it is. But it's about making choice from your self-awareness. Radical acceptance causes an enormous amount of self-awareness, which I did an entire podcast on as well. But radical acceptance is being self-aware that, I don't like that. That sucked. But it is what it is. I can't do anything about it. Right? And so self-awareness will foster self-compassion. Now that you have self-compassion, now we're talking. Now you're like, oh boy, shit the bed on that one. Yeah, I did. That's all right. I'm going to turn around. Let's see what I can do. Right? You can say sorry if you need to, make amends. Don't go on an apology tour. It is what it is. Don't hold people's feet to the flame to try to get them to apologize. Just if they're not, they don't need to always, everybody doesn't need to be in your life. You don't need to be in everybody else's life. And, it also helps you make more informed decisions and not emotional decisions. See, I'm a key person I don't make emotional decisions. I don't. Oh my God, I used to. Holy hell, I used to. My entire life was emotional decision. Do this. How do I feel? I'm not going to do this. I want to do this. Let's go spend more money. I mean, that's still a little bit of an issue, but I think That's the biggest thing, right? These are the things that you got to get clear in. There's always going to be space of growth. If you just heard a meow, it's because Ezra knows that I'm recording, and this is what he loves being up here when I'm recording. All of the cats do. They love you guys. So meow for them. I'm saying hello in meow language for you. But yes, and so that is going to be very helpful. Now, what are some areas that you can start to practice this self-awareness? Well, that is self-awareness, but with this radical acceptance. Well, let's talk about it. So one is accepting the fact that the past is the past. The past events, everything is unchangeable. I don't care that you don't like it. I don't care that it's painful because, it's not that I don't care that it's painful. I know it's painful, but I don't care how hard you focus on it and the why and how this happened and how come these things didn't change. And oh my God, okay, it is what it is. It is not changing. There's no magic pill I can give you, but you gotta stop with the resistance. You cannot change the past event or action. Why would you have regret? Regret is a useless tool. No reason for regret. Now, it's beneficial when you take the regret and you learn the lesson and you move forward because now the regret is productive. To sit there and go, I can't believe I did that. What's wrong with me? Oh my God, I feel so bad. Okay, it's unproductive. And you should have no guilt behind it. You really shouldn't. A changed behavior, if that's something that you can do, is the best apology and the best resilience and the best relationship builder ever. Now, just because you do those things, you must be very, very clear that you're not in control. Somebody might just be like, okay, I'm done. Like, I see that you've made all these great changes and I'm really happy for you, but I don't want to be in your life anymore. And that can be hurtful for you, but they don't owe that to you just because now suddenly you turned around and you started working on yourself. No. You have to accept. And everybody's like, how do you accept? You lower your ego and you realize that you are in control of a lot of things. So instead of focusing on what you're not in control of, you start to focus on what you are in control of. You start to focus on the things that you can do, like your mindset, picking up new hobbies, continuing to work on your personal growth, going for a walk. Like there's so many things that you are in control of. So when you start to go, well, how come I can't accept it? Well, is there attachment involved? Are you attached to an outcome? Did you attach a worth or a desire to an outcome? Did you have so much like, I know I'm going to be happy if this happens, and then it didn't happen. And now you're super upset because you put all this attachment there. Again, these things that you feel that you're resisting is there to help you expand your growth. It really is. Your triggers are beautiful. Everybody runs through their triggers. I'm like, stop doing that. Your triggers is that little inner child in you that says, hey, BTW, I still have this open cut. Like nobody's taking care of this open cut. Can you please come and fix this open cut for me? That's all your trigger is. That's your inner child basically saying, ooh, I did not feel safe then. And nobody was really there. Oh God, I did not like that feeling at all. But your inner child, your little child is looking to you and going, can you please help me? Can you please show up for me? And you keep going, well, remember mom did this and then this happened. Yes, valid. That's not helping your inner child. So you got to radically accept that whatever has happened is done. Sure. Is there collateral damage? Absolutely. Sometimes there is a rack of collateral damage, meaning there's a lot of people that get her on the way. Maybe there's monies that are lost. Yes, it does happen. But to obsess on it and to worry about it and go, why did I do this? Okay. Yeah. Understanding why you did it, but don't do the things where you're like, I'm an adult. I should know better. Yes. You're also an adult. You're a human being. You are 1000% allowed to make mistakes. That's how the world goes around. How do you think we learn? You know, the meme, and God, I can't remember who said it, but I have it even like on my desk somewhere. But it's, you know, if you've never made a mistake, you never started anything new. Because every time you start something new, you're going to screw it up. You're going to totally shit the bed on it. You're going to have to be okay with that. Your perfectionism is something that is holding you back. Radical acceptance is going to get you to understand perfectionism is not real. Other people's opinions of you, not important. How they perceive you, their own issue. You have no control over how somebody sees you. I have no control over somebody, how they see me. I have zero control over that. And I have no desire to try to convince them as to who I am. I know who I am. I know I'm good at what I do. I know what kind of a person I am. And meaning my people, meaning like people who are close to me, they know that. So that's all that matters to me. I don't need everybody to know that. Because quite honestly, not everybody needs access to me. Not everybody needs access to you. You got to stop making yourself so accessible. This accessibility that you keep doing with people is definitely causing problematic feelings for you. And when you radically accept that relationship with your mom or your parents or your sister or whomever else is not going to be as you want it to be, and you accept them for who they are, then you can determine, hey, what kind of boundaries do I need to put up? Right? Because it's a past situation. Well, God, I keep trying to have this relationship with her, but for the last 24 years, she's done the same thing. Okay, well, that's not her. That's not her fault. That's yours. Not that it's your fault. It's your own doing. It's not your fault. It is your own doing, though, because you know what you've been dealing with, and then you keep getting mad at what you deal with. If you keep touching a stove and you keep getting mad at the stove, well, then now we are going into insanity territory. Like literally the definition of insanity, doing the things over and over again and expecting a different result. It's just not going to be in your best interest. Because whether you accept it or not, it is what it is. The relationship may never change. You can't make someone get help. You can't make someone go to therapy. You can't make someone go to rehab. You cannot do that because that is going to create so much tension, so much resentment. And if a person's not ready to do any of those things, it's never going to work in your favor. Ever. Ever. Now, some people have physical health limitations, right? And that can be really hard to accept. Really, really hard. But, once you look at it and let's say you can see it, is there anything that can be done? What can you do to adapt to make the best of what the situation is? This goes into mindset. This is where your mindset with physical limitations and ailments, this is where that has to come from because your body and mind may not be in sync, meaning your mind might want one thing and your body goes, I don't know if I can do that. And now you're stressed and now you're like, why me? And again, does it suck? Absolutely, it sucks. Oh, absolutely. But there's only so much you can do. So to preserve any type of quality of life, you have to get to the space of adapting to seeing how things can work for you now as to the best of their ability. I see this a lot too, by the way. The next one is loss and grief. You guys know I've done so much in grief. I mean, I counsel people so much. That's how my entire practice started because I talk to dead people. You guys know that. So grief and loss has always been like a giant thing, but here's the thing. If you don't accept that person's dead and gone, period. I was just recently, and this is how sometimes you have to be direct and assertive. So when my friend Carrie's dad passed a couple months ago, she called me. It was like 10 o'clock at night. She said, I really need you. Dad coded. So I picked her up and went to the hospital. And we were by the time we got there, he had expired. And so it wasn't in the hospital room. It was in the bereavement room. And then they have the room attached where the body is, right? And so and I went in there, to kind of help because, I don't think Carrie was in a space to do it. So I was there to go with her or go in and talk to him and do the things that she wanted me to do. But before then, the doctor came in. So before, she knew, and he was saying, yeah, we did everything we could. And he kind of went through the whole thing. And because on the way there, he was still alive, right? So I think she was like, oh, okay, well, you said hurry up and get here. So wait, are you asking me what kind of decision I want to make? Like, is he on a ventilator? And like, I knew that he had passed. Pretty much everybody in the room did. But, there's a level of denial when it comes to a loved one. And he looked at her and he said, he's dead. He's dead. He's not breathing. He's never coming back. He's gone. He's expired. He said it just like that. Now, you might think that that's cold, but it's not cold. You got to be assertive. People don't understand the benefit of assertion. And people are going to take it some kind of way. Let them. That's not your freaking problem. But you can't, you need to be very clear cut. Person doesn't have to love what they hear. But you want to talk about radical acceptance. That's how he broke it down. He's dead. He's not breathing. He's not coming back. He's dead. He's not alive. Okay. And I mean, you could almost tell he wasn't annoyed. He was just direct. And the more that you resist it and the more that you go, well, listen, I lived that life. And let me tell you from a personal experience, it is not a fun experience. I lived in the fact that my mom died. She was sick most of my life since first grade. And then she died right before I turned 14. Like she died March 25th. My birthday's April 7th. 1985, by the way, is when she passed. And then, you know, I had all the fuckery with dad, but I was so mad. And I just kept saying, I'm so mad at you. Like, I'm so mad at her. Like, if she wouldn't have died, my life would have been so much better. Like, I started doing the victim mentality thing. And then I started resisting. And then I was mad at everybody around me. And oh my God, it is the most annoying, horrible feeling on the planet. And I do not recommend that you keep living in it and then persecuting people for how they grieve. My sister passed 6 years ago. And the next day I was at my ex-husband's wedding. My whole family was. I know people whose family passed, mom or dad passed, they still go on their vacation, because why would you not? Just because people grieve differently does not make them wrong. Some people go and they go on a trip. That's what they need. You are of zero place to judge them. Just because you want to sit around and cry and that's what you need to do, then go ahead and do that. But do not ever judge somebody else for how they grieve. And you're going to have to accept that people grieve differently. People do things differently than you. And it's okay. But don't deny your feelings. Be sad, be upset, do those things. But you got to accept that it is what it is. If things changed, yes, they've changed. Now, what are we going to do about it? Radical acceptance. It is what it is. What's next? It is what it is. What's next? What can I do? Okay. Like the uncontrollable external circumstances is another one, right? Like natural disasters, pandemics, hurricanes, earthquakes. They're out of your control. You'll never be like, okay, earthquake Bertha. I don't think earthquakes are named, but Bertha's going to be named. I feel like Bertha's a good earthquake name. I'm ready for you. Like, it doesn't happen that way. These things are natural disasters. You have no control over them. No matter how much you prepare, no matter what you do, you have no control over them. You got to find ways to cope with it that isn't sitting there and spiraling. That goes into your ego. Yes, anxiety. Yes, stress. Yes, childhood trauma. Yes, all those things. Yes, attachment. But it's really rooted in your ego of not accepting that things are largely out of your control. 98% of the time. Okay. Now, I see this a lot where people have a hard time when romantic relationships end, right? Because what happens is, yes, it is painful. It is allowed to be painful. But really what you're in pain of, what you're really stressing with is the idea of what you thought it was going to be. So then you start glorifying the person. It's the same thing actually when people pass. Oh my God, they were amazing. I mean, were they? I mean, yeah, they're human, so of course they're amazing. But were they? They were kind of an asshole. Like, you forgot that part, or you feel like you're not supposed to talk about that part when somebody passes. Why not? That's who they are, or that's who they were. Why in the world are you trying to walk on eggshells now? Still. But when a love relationship ends, you're allowed your painful feelings. What you don't do is continue your external suffering by, let's check their Snapchat. Oh, what are they doing? Oh my God, they're smiling. Oh, they're not even feeling the pain that I feel because they don't have to. You want the harsh reality? They do not have to feel sad. They do not have to feel sad. You might feel more sad than them. Yes, that is a true statement. And it is what it is. It has nothing to do with, are you good enough? Stop thinking that when relationships dissolve, that it's because you're not good enough. That's not the case. People grow apart. That's actually what happened with my first husband. I told you guys that. He wasn't a bad guy. I love his wife now. We get along fine. I mean, he's in a whole different state, but I mean, we're fine. We can communicate. I can shoot him a text. She can send me a text. It's fine. He's better with her. I'm better with Paul. Lower your ego. That you have to remember a lot of times. Now, when anybody breaks up, of course it's going to be sad, right? Of course it's going to be sad. But some of it could be into attachment. I needed this. I wanted this. I gave up my life for it. That's a problem. You should never, under any circumstances, make changes for people to keep them in your life or expect them to do the same. That is the worst thing on the planet that you can do. Of course, there's financial setbacks. And instead of focusing on that, trust me, I know that. Lived in a van with my dad, had to live with my friend Kay and Steve when my son was in the 4th grade. So yeah, I got it. I know it sucks. You don't want to go back there again. So you create a strategy. You can't keep going in the past. And then here's the thing. Unmet expectations. Oh God. Oh God. This is a big one. This is the one that I would swear if you would just stop with your expectations, so much of your issues would be gone. I promise you. I know that sounds basic, but the more expectations that you put on something or somebody and the attachment that you put to it, it is so not healthy for you. People respond differently. Okay. I don't need as much human interaction as some people. That doesn't make me wrong. I mean, I have human interaction for my job, but I mean, talking like from a person, I just don't. Other people do, and that's okay. But then I can respect that from you. You can respect that from me, but I'm not going to push myself to be more people-y. Oh, I push myself out of the comfort zone. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'll do anything that scares me. I'm here for it. But I also know me, and I don't need your approval or validation. So I'm not going to put myself out because of that. And you have to understand that you will be disappointed. And you will be disappointed and disappointed because you will say, I did. And remember, now we go to manipulation and calculation. I did this for them. Aren't they going to do that for me? Now we go into that. And I have an entire podcast on it, so I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole on it. I have podcasts, I have YouTubes, everything on expectations. It's a big one. You got to radically accept that people do not have to show up at Christmas. They do not have to say happy birthday. They do not have to invite you places. They do not have to pick up the phone and call you every day. It just doesn't need to happen. Sure, voice your needs by all means, but be okay in understanding that that specific person may not be the person to meet those needs. Then you say, are those needs that important to me that maybe that relationship isn't for me? And if the answer is yes, then you got to accept that maybe that relationship isn't for you. But you always say what your needs are. You always say what they are. You always have a voice. You always have a space. But stop expecting the people that you want to do it to do it. See, that's the difference. You are absolutely supposed to have your boundaries. Absolutely supposed to have your needs. 1000%. You are not supposed to say and allowed to say to everybody else on the planet, you got to fall in line with the way I'm doing it. No. So radical acceptance will help you greatly understand that it's out of your control. You know, you're going to have those career setbacks where you lose your job. Okay. Yeah, it can be a little ego bruising. It can be a little scary financially. Sure. But we can't live there. Okay. Like we can't live there. Let's find some new opportunities. Maybe we're going to develop a new skill. Maybe we're going to take some more classes. Maybe we're going to get certified. Let's turn that into productivity. Why? Mindset. And the last one I'm going to talk to you about is family dynamics. Because it's kind of going to go into expectations too, right? But you know, you have to understand that you can't change the behavior of family members. For all of that, you can't change the behavior of anybody. But you definitely can't change it for family members or any dynamics within the family. But you can set your boundaries and you can change your response to them. Stop thinking that your sister and you need to be close and that mom favors your sister and how come she doesn't like you as much as she likes your sister and all these. It is what it is. I am going to break that down for you. It is what it is. If you see the same thing and you see what you're dealing with and you keep getting mad at what you're dealing with, that goes back on you. You're causing your own suffering. It's sad. Great. Not great that it's sad, but great. You know that. Let's process what that emotion looks like. Feel it. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be sisters like, yay, we're besties. In this situation. It's just not going to be. I don't care that you want it to be different. I don't care that you want her to be different. I don't care that you want her to change the situation. And nope. I don't care that you don't like the boyfriend that she's dating. Not your business. Stay in your lane. So you can see how radical acceptance can vastly improve your life. It can free up so much space. It can free up so much anxiety and stress when you release the things that cannot control, that you cannot control. And we're going to talk now. We're going to jump over to Patreon. We're going to talk more on your how-tos. But at the end of the day, it's going to really come down to your radical acceptance. There is not a magic pill. I don't care that you don't like it. I don't care that it's sad. I don't care that it's painful. I mean, I care for you, but I don't care what it is. It's not going to change it. So you got to accept that you're the person in control. And when you set your boundaries, yeah, guess what? Sometimes your family members aren't going to be there. Sometimes your friends aren't going to be there. Sometimes those people aren't going to be there. When you say your needs, they might not be able to fulfill them. And then you have to be okay with that. You can be hurt. You can absolutely be hurt. But until you radically accept, you're going to stay a prisoner to your own expectations and your own sort of like inner hell. And we don't want to do that. And how do we change that? Well, kind of got to start radically accepting that you're the one that's totally in control of it.